Is Serbia secretly the best place for expats in Europe? A hidden gem of culture and affordability? Or is it just a bunch of hype from digital nomads searching for their next cheap destination? That's the exact question that brought me here. I decided to pack my bags and move to Serbia for a whole month. I wasn't here as a tourist. I was here to live the day-to-day life and find out the real story. In this video, I'm laying it all bare. This is the brutally honest truth about what it actually costs to live here, the culture shocks I definitely didn't see coming, and what your life could really look like if you moved to this complex and captivating country. Stay tuned, because some of this might actually surprise you. So why Serbia? Over the last couple of years, my social media feeds have been packed with videos and articles raving about this place. They all talk about the super low cost of living, the great social scene, and how friendly the locals are. But I've been around long enough to know the online version isn't always the reality. There's always a catch, right? There's always a side of the story that doesn't make it into the glossy travel vlogs. I wanted to find that other side. My plan was simple: rent a flat, buy my own groceries, figure out the city, and just try to build a life here for 30 days, all while keeping track of the real costs, the daily frustrations, and the genuine moments of connection. I'm not sponsored by any tourism board, and I'm not selling you anything. I just want to give you the most authentic look I possibly can. So, if you're thinking about moving to Serbia, or you're just curious what life is really like here, this video is for you. We're going to break it all down, starting with the #1 reason people look at Serbia in the first place: the money. All right, let's get right into the topic you're probably most curious about: the cost of living. Is it really as cheap as everyone says? The short answer is yes, but the long answer is a bit more complicated. Serbia is, without a doubt, more affordable than almost anywhere in Western Europe or North America. But cheap is a relative term, and your lifestyle is going to completely shape your budget. I tracked every single dinar I spent for a month, and here is the complete, unfiltered breakdown. First up, the biggest expense for any expat: rent. I set myself up in Belgrade, the capital, since that's where most foreigners land. Just know that Belgrade is the most expensive city in Serbia. If you choose to live somewhere smaller like Novi Sad or Niš, your costs will be quite a bit lower. After about a week of searching online and dodging a few sketchy listings, I found a decent one-bedroom apartment in the Vračar neighborhood, which is a popular central spot. My rent for the month was $550. For a central location in a major European capital, that's an incredible price. In a city like Novi Sad, you could find a similar place for maybe $350 or $400. Now, was it a luxury apartment? Definitely not. It was in a classic, older Serbian building. Solid, but with its own quirks. The plumbing made some weird noises and the elevator felt like a museum piece, but it had character and, most importantly, everything worked. If you're looking for brand new, modern apartments, you can find them. But you'll be paying prices closer to Western Europe, probably in the $700 or $900 range for a one-bedroom. Next, utilities. This was a pleasant surprise. My total bill for electricity, heating, water, and super-fast internet came to about $130 for the month. And by the way, the internet here is fantastic, fast and reliable, which is a massive plus if you work remotely. Now for the most variable cost: groceries and daily life. This is where Serbia's affordability really hits you, especially if you're willing to live like a local. My first week, I made the classic mistake of only shopping at the big, modern supermarkets. The prices were fine, maybe 20 to 30% cheaper than I'm used to, but it wasn't life-changing. But then I discovered the magic of the local pijaka, the green market. This is where the real savings are. Every neighborhood has one, and they are just incredible. You'll find stalls overflowing with fresh, seasonal fruits and vegetables, local cheeses, cured meats, and honey, all sold directly by the people who made them. The quality is amazing, and the prices are shockingly low. A kilo of fresh tomatoes, a block of rich kajmak, a loaf of bread still warm from the local Pekara bakery. My entire grocery haul for a week of eating really well was often under $40. For the whole month, I spent about $250 on groceries, and I was eating like a king. The official estimate for a single person's monthly costs, not counting rent, is about $615. And I'd say that feels about right if you're eating out a few times a week. Speaking of which, the food scene in Belgrade is a huge part of the lifestyle. You can get a meal at an inexpensive traditional restaurant called a kafana for as little as $6 to $10. A three-course meal for two at a nice mid-range restaurant in a trendy neighborhood will only set you back about $30 to $40. It's fantastic value. My biggest weakness was the coffee culture. I spent a lot of time in cafes, and a good espresso or cappuccino was rarely more than $2. But this is a trap. A coffee here, a beer there, it starts to add up. I budgeted about $200 for leisure, which covered dining out twice a week, coffees, a few beers with new friends, and a couple of museum visits. Finally, transportation. Belgrade's public transport system of buses and trams is huge and affordable. A monthly pass costs about $25 to $27. I mostly walked because the city is so pedestrian-friendly, but for longer trips the system worked just fine. It can get pretty crowded during rush hour, and the vehicles aren't exactly brand new, but it gets you where you need to go. So let's tally it all up. For 1 month of living a comfortable but not crazy life in the center of Belgrade, rent, $550, utilities, $130, groceries, $250, leisure and dining out, $200 tips, transportation, $25. Total monthly cost, $1,155. This number lines up perfectly with the common estimate that you can live comfortably in Belgrade for between $1,000 and $2,500 a month. If you lived in a smaller city, got a roommate, or cooked at home more, you could easily get this under $1,000. For a bit of perspective, the average net salary in Serbia is around $860 a month. So, while it's cheap for a foreigner earning a Western salary, it's a very different reality for many locals. That's a crucial thing to remember. The brutally honest truth about the cost is this: it is genuinely affordable, but it's not free. You still need a solid income, especially if you want to enjoy the lifestyle. Okay, beyond the money, what does it actually feel like to live in Serbia? This is where things get really rich, layered, and sometimes a little contradictory. The culture here is a deep, fascinating mix of Slavic soul, Ottoman history, Austro-Hungarian elegance, and a fiercely independent spirit. The first thing you notice is the pace of life. There's a concept here called Polako, which basically means take it easy, slowly, or no rush. And they really mean it. Everything from waiting in line at the bank to ordering a coffee just seems to happen on a more relaxed schedule. If you're coming from a fast-paced city, this is either going to be a godsend or drive you completely insane. It's a blessing because it forces you to slow down and actually be present. The cafe culture is the perfect example of this. People will sit for hours over one coffee, just talking, smoking, and watching the world go by. It's not about getting your caffeine fix to go, it's about the act of sitting down and connecting. But that Polako lifestyle can also be a source of frustration. If you need something done urgently, the total lack of hurry can be maddening. And the bureaucracy, which we'll get to in a bit, runs on an extreme version of Polako. It's an attitude you have to learn to adapt to. You can't fight it, you just have to embrace it. The second huge part of the culture is hospitality. The stereotype of the warm, welcoming Serb is, from my experience, totally true. People are incredibly generous, especially once you get past their initial reserved exterior. I was invited for coffee, or a rakia, the powerful national brandy, by shop owners, neighbors, and people I had just met. This isn't just being polite, it's a real desire to share their culture with you. A word of warning: if you get invited to someone's home, you will be fed until you physically cannot move. Saying no to food is not an option. This generosity is amazing, but it can also come with an intensity that's a little overwhelming at times. Now for the culture shocks. The first and most immediate one for me was how much people smoke. It's everywhere, in cafes and bars and some restaurants. As a non-smoker, it was pretty tough. Finding a truly smoke-free indoor spot can be a real challenge, though things are slowly starting to change. You just can't escape it. Another shock was how direct people are. Serbians generally don't beat around the bush. They're very direct, which can sometimes come across as rude if you're used to more sanitized, politically correct conversations. It's not meant to be offensive. It's just a more honest and straightforward way of communicating. Once I got used to it, I actually started to appreciate it. There's no passive aggression. You always know exactly where you stand. Finally, there's the visible weight of history. Belgrade wears its past on its sleeve. You'll see a beautiful Art Nouveau building right next to a brutalist socialist-era block, which is just down the street from an ancient fortress wall. You'll even see the scars from the 1999 NATO bombing still visible on some government buildings. This history isn't tucked away in a museum. It's part of the living, breathing city. Talking about the recent past, especially the Yugoslav wars, is an extremely sensitive topic. It's a complex and painful history, and as an outsider, I realized my job was to listen, not to have an opinion. The cultural experience here is also defined by a love for a good time. This country knows how to party. From the world-famous Exit Festival in Novi Sad to the Wild Gucha Trumpet Festival, there's always something going on. And Belgrade's nightlife is legendary for a reason. But it's not just about huge festivals. Every day feels like a small celebration of life, lived out on the streets, in the parks, and in the countless cafes. The lifestyle here is intoxicating. It pulls you in and makes you forget about the outside world. It's a culture that puts human connection above productivity and community above individualism. But it also demands a lot of patience and a willingness to accept things as they are, not as you wish they'd be. So, you've got the money figured out and you're vibing with the culture. But what's it actually like to be a foreigner here? How do you build a community and deal with the practical side of things? This is where many expats either succeed or fail. First, making friends. There's a growing expat community in Serbia, especially in Belgrade and Novi Sad. So finding other foreigners is pretty easy through Facebook groups and meetups. They can be a great resource for advice and a comforting taste of home. But if you only hang out with other expats, you're going to miss out on the real Serbian experience. Befriending locals is a different, and I think more rewarding challenge. Like I said, Serbs are very hospitable, but there's a gap between hospitality and real friendship. The key, I found, is shared interests. Joining a sports club, a language class, or a workshop is the best way to form real connections. The language barrier is also a real thing. While a lot of younger people in the cities speak amazing English, that's not always the case with the older generation or once you leave the city. Making an effort to learn some basic Serbian goes a ridiculously long way. Just learning to say Dobar dan, good day, Hvala, thank you, and Molim, please, will open so many doors. People really appreciate the effort and they'll be much warmer and more patient with you. I found that my clumsy attempts at speaking Serbian were often a great icebreaker and led to some of my best memories. Now for the beast that every single expat in Serbia talks about, the bureaucracy. To put it mildly, it's a nightmare. The system is slow, confusing, and often seems to run on rules that aren't written down anywhere. Even on my short one-month stay, I had a run-in with it when I had to register my address with the local police, which is a requirement for all foreigners. The process involved multiple trips, vague instructions, and a whole lot of patient waiting. For anyone trying to get long-term residency, the stories are legendary. The amount of paperwork is huge. The rules seem to change randomly, and you will spend a lot of your life standing in queues. The brutally honest truth is, you can't come here expecting German efficiency. You have to hire a good lawyer to handle your residency, and you have to develop an almost Zen-like level of patience. This is probably the single biggest frustration for foreigners here. On the bright side, Serbia is a very safe country. The crime rates are low, and I never felt unsafe walking around Belgrade, even late at night. Obviously, you should always use common sense, but the general vibe is one of safety and security, which is a huge plus. When it comes to healthcare, there are two systems. The public healthcare is very cheap, but it can suffer from long wait times and the quality can vary. Most expats, myself included, choose private healthcare, which is easy to find, affordable, and generally has a very high standard. A visit to a private specialist might cost you $30 or $50, which is nothing compared to what you'd pay in the US. The expat experience here is a study in contrasts. It's the warmth of the people against the coldness of the bureaucracy. It's the ease of talking in English with a young person in tech versus the struggle of trying to buy something from an older shopkeeper. It's the feeling of being incredibly welcome, while also knowing that you're always going to be a bit of an outsider. Succeeding as an expat here really depends on your ability to embrace all of that. So we've covered the cost, the culture, and the day-to-day life of an expat. In a moment, I'm going to give you my final, brutally honest verdict on whether moving to Serbia is actually worth it, and who it's really for. But first, if you're finding this video helpful and you appreciate this no-hype approach, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel and tells YouTube that this kind of honest content is valuable. And if you want to see more deep dives like this, make sure you subscribe. Okay, with that said, let's get to the final verdict. So, after a month of living and breathing Serbia, what's the final word? Is the hype real? Is this the right place for you? The brutally honest verdict is this. Serbia is a phenomenal country, but it is absolutely not for everyone. You need to be a specific type of person with a specific mindset to really be happy here. Let's break down the pros and cons based on everything I saw and learned. On the pro side, the low cost of living is 100% real. Your money just goes so much further here, letting you have a quality of life that would be tough to get in other European capitals. The culture is rich, deep, and feels alive. If you love history, art, and vibrant traditions, you will never be bored. The people are genuinely welcoming and friendly. The social life is incredible and built around real, face-to-face conversations. And the country itself is beautiful with amazing nature just a short drive away. For digital nomads and remote workers, the mix of low-cost, great internet, and easy residency options is almost impossible to beat in Europe. However, the cons are just as real. The bureaucracy is a huge, constant headache that can drain your will to live. The language barrier is a real issue outside of the big cities and away from younger, educated people. And while the economy is growing, there aren't many local job opportunities for foreigners who don't speak Serbian. So it's a much better place for people who bring their own income. There are also social issues to think about. The country is still fairly conservative on some topics. For example, it's not known for being very LGBTQ+ friendly. And the cold, gray winters can be a real shock if you're used to milder weather. So, who is Serbia for? Serbia is for the adventurer. The person who sees a challenge not as a deal breaker, but as part of the experience. It's for the person who values deep cultural immersion over easy comfort. It's for the remote worker who can use a foreign salary to live an incredibly full life. It's for the patient soul who can laugh at the bureaucratic madness instead of letting it beat them. It's for someone who wants to be in a place that feels real, unpolished, and humming with history and passion. Who is Serbia not for? Serbia is not for the person who needs everything to be perfectly ordered and efficient. If you get frustrated when things don't run like a Swiss watch, you will have a hard time here. It's not for the person who wants a sanitized, Western European bubble. You have to be willing to deal with the grit and the complexity of the culture. And it's probably not the right move for someone looking to climb a local corporate ladder without being fluent in the language. The hype about Serbia is justified, but it comes with a lot of asterisks. It's an amazing place, if you are the right fit for it. The online videos often gloss over the daily frustrations and the mental gymnastics you have to do. My month here was one of the most rewarding and challenging of my life. I felt incredibly alive, constantly stimulated, and deeply welcomed. But I also felt frustrated, confused, and exhausted at times. That, right there, is the brutally honest truth. It's both. And you have to be willing to embrace both sides of that coin. My 30 days in Serbia are over, but this experience is going to stick with me for a long time. It's a country that really gets under your skin. It challenges you, it forces you to slow down, and it rewards you with a richness of life that money can't buy. It's not a perfect paradise, and it's not a broken mess. It's a country in motion, a place with immense heart and soul, standing proudly at the crossroads of Europe. It's a place that asks something of you, but gives you so much more back. I hope this honest look has given you a clearer picture of what it's really like to live here. Of course, my experience is just one person's story, and your journey will be different. That's why I really want to hear from you. Are you an expat in Serbia? Do you agree with what I said? Are you thinking about moving here and have questions I didn't answer? Drop your thoughts, your stories, and your questions in the comments below. I'll be reading every single one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.